Breaking news! Good news coming for the Denver Broncos. Yes, my friends, things are heated behind the scenes. And without wasting any time, I'm not going to tell you everything. This could absolutely change the direction of the team's offseason plans. One of the biggest questions before free agency was whether the Broncos needed to target a safety with their first-round draft pick. But now, that may not even be necessary. A big change could be on the horizon, and Broncos country needs to pay attention. Before I tell you all the details, make sure you've already hit the like button, but only do that if you're a true Denver Broncos fan. If possible, write something like, "Go Broncos! We're going to the Super Bowl." I make a point of always saying this, because no one gets where they don't believe is possible. But enough of the chit-chat. Let's get to the main topic. Last offseason, the loss of Justin Simmons had fans worried that the defense would take a big hit. In response, Sean Payton and the front office went out and signed Brandon Jones, a move that some fans initially ignored. But Jones ended up having a breakout season, even making Pro Football Focus's top 100 players in the NFL. Miami Dolphins fans tried to downplay his departure, insisting that he was only the third best safety. But here's where things get interesting, because the guy they kept claiming was better than Jones, Javon Holland, is now a free agent. And guess what? Everything Holland is looking for in his next team screams Denver Broncos. Holland recently appeared on the Breaking House Rules podcast and shared a note from his phone detailing exactly what he wants from his next team. He listed things like detailed and experienced coaching, a player-supportive ownership group, and culture-setting men leading the organization. Broncos country, does that sound familiar? Because that description could have been written word for word about Sean Payton and the Walton Penner ownership group. We've got a Super Bowl winning coach, an ownership group that celebrates players like family, and a locker room that has built a strong identity. Not to mention, Holland already has strong ties with Brandon Jones and Bo Nix. The connections are there, and Denver has the money to make this happen. If the Broncos land Holland, it would be a massive upgrade at safety. Right now, PJ Locke has been holding it down, and he's a fan favorite. But let's be real, if you can replace him with someone who's ranked as a top-tier talent, you make that move. According to PFF rankings, Brandon Jones was already a top 72 player in the entire NFL. If Dolphins fans were right in saying Holland was even better, then we're talking about an elite talent joining the Broncos defense. Just picture that secondary with Patrick Surtain locking down one side, Javon Holland roaming the field, and a defense that doesn't fall apart late in the season like it did last year. But here's where things get even wilder. If for some reason the Broncos don't land Holland, another top-tier safety might be on the way. Reports from the 49ers USA Today syndicate suggest that San Francisco is predicting Denver to land Talanoa Hufanga in free agency. That's right, another elite safety is on the radar. Hufanga is ranked just slightly below Holland by PFF metrics, but his playmaking ability is undeniable. Either of these guys would be a major boost to the Broncos secondary, and the best part? It means Denver wouldn't have to use its first-round pick on a safety. That opens up a lot of possibilities for the draft, and it brings us to the next big question. What should the Broncos do with the 20th overall pick? Some mock drafts have them taking a safety out of Georgia, but if Holland or Hufanga joins the team, that need disappears. And that means one name could suddenly be in play, Ashton Jeanty. Now, Jeanty is an electric running back prospect, and a lot of teams have their eyes on him. The Bears, Cowboys, and Raiders have all been linked to him, and just a few days ago, it seemed like there was no way he'd fall to Denver at 20. But now, something interesting has happened. Jeanty has decided to skip most of the on-field drills at the NFL Combine. He's only doing medicals and team interviews, leaving his actual workouts for Boise State's Pro Day. That raises some red flags. Is he hiding an injury? Is he letting his film speak for itself? Whatever the case, some teams might be hesitant to draft him in the first round. If that happens, Jeanty could slide right into Denver's lap at pick 20. But here's the debate. Should the Broncos take him? Running backs aren't valued the way they used to be in the draft. Just look at what happened with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. The Titans had a trade deal in place for Henry, but it only involved a third or fourth round pick. Meanwhile, Barkley just walked in free agency. If two of the best running backs in the NFL don't even warrant a first-round pick in trade value, should the Broncos really use their top selection on one? It's a fair question, especially when Denver hasn't had a 100-yard rusher in almost 3 seasons. There's also the issue of positional value. Think about it like this. When you're putting together an outfit, you pick your shirt, pants, and shoes first. Socks are important, but you don't start by picking the coolest socks ever and then throw on a mismatched outfit. Running back is like that in the draft. Yes, you need one, but you don't draft socks first. You draft the most important pieces and then find good socks later. And this draft is loaded with running back talent. There are guys projected in the 3rd round, like Tennessee's Samson Evans, who have been working out with top-tier trainers. Evans has been training with the same people who coached Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Bijan Robinson, and DeAndre Swift. His footwork looks ridiculous, and if Denver can grab a guy like that in the middle rounds, does it make sense to take Jeanty at 20? Maybe the better move is to target a tight end instead. Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren are two names to watch, and they could provide much more value to the offense than a running back in the first round. If the Broncos can land a guy like Holland or Hufanga in free agency, it gives them the flexibility to make a smart, high-impact pick at 20 instead of reaching for a need. So, Broncos country, what do you think? Would you rather have Javon Holland or Talanoa Hufanga join the defense? Should Denver go all in on Ashton Jeanty if he falls to 20, or is there a better way to use that pick? Let me know in the comments, and let's get the conversation going. Another factor that could shape the Broncos' draft strategy is the ongoing quarterback situation. With the team moving on from its previous starter, all eyes are on Sean Payton and George Payton to see how they address the position. Right now, Denver has multiple options on the table, whether it's drafting a rookie, signing a veteran bridge quarterback, or even making a bold trade-up in the draft. And depending on what happens, it could completely shift the priority of that 20th overall pick. If the Broncos decide to go the rookie route, then it's all about which prospects are available. This year's draft class is loaded with quarterback talent at the top, but the reality is that Denver likely won't be in position to grab one of the elite names without making a significant move up the board. Guys like Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels will be long gone by pick 20. That leaves the second-tier quarterbacks like Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., and J.J. McCarthy as potential options. Now, Bo Nix is an interesting name because of his connection to Javon Holland. They both played at Oregon, and Holland has already shown love for Nix in past interviews. If Denver were to land Holland in free agency and draft Nix, it would be another step toward building strong chemistry within the locker room. But the question remains, is Nix worth taking at pick 20, or could Denver wait until later? The other alternative is signing a veteran to compete for the starting job while drafting a quarterback in the later rounds. There are still solid bridge options available, and the Broncos could go the route of securing a mid-level starter while developing a young quarterback behind him. That way, the team isn't forced to reach for a QB at 20 and can instead focus on upgrading the roster at other key positions. But let's shift the conversation back to a major problem that has plagued the Broncos for far too long: offensive consistency. We've seen flashes of great play from this unit, but it's been way too inconsistent. Denver desperately needs a reliable offensive identity, and part of that comes down to improving the supporting cast. That's why a tight end could be a more impactful pick at 20 than a running back. If the Broncos want to get the most out of their next quarterback, whether it's a rookie or a veteran, they need a safety blanket in the passing game. Colston Loveland from Michigan is one of the top names to watch. He's got the size, athleticism, and hands to be a real problem for defenses. So, Broncos country, with all these moving pieces, what do you want to see happen? Should the team go all in on a top safety like Holland or Hufanga? Do you think a quarterback should be the priority at 20, or is it better to wait? What about strengthening the offense with a top-tier tight end or offensive lineman? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, keep it locked in for more updates as we get closer to the draft.